This episode may contain adult themes and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Sorry.
What's the trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic and the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might go hunting for a killer shark, we make sure to take Dramamine beforehand. Every episode, we discuss a film through the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I write about films from my own site, icecreamforfreaks.com, and I'm a member of the North Texas Film Critics Association, as well as the International Film Society Critics. You can hear me guest on other pods as the David Thewlis of podcasting.
What happened? Keep going.
Sorry, I'm joined by my brother and common man co-host, a man who cares much more about the economy and refuses to close the beaches for the 4th of July. Jake Miller, how you doing, buddy?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah. How are you, bud?
I'm doing all right. You know, I'm in the thick of award season. I just did my voting for the International Film Society Critics, so you know, I'm trying to get over 2022 and trying to get into 2023. And what a better way to do that than with this movie. It is it's one we've been kind of circling since a couple episodes ago when we were talking about the USS Indianapolis scene. So,
yeah, I feel like we've been circling it like a shark.
Good metaphor. I don't know where it came from, but we're going to talk about Jaws today. Directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Peter Benchley and Carl Gottlieb, based on the book by Peter Benchley, starring Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, Lorraine Gray, and Robert Shaw, co-starring Carl Gottlieb, Jeffrey Kramer, Susan Baccalini, Joe Ferrero, and Murray Hamilton. Opened on June 20th, 1975. It is a blockbuster in every sense of the word because it created the word blockbuster. The word blockbuster is a term because of how many people went to look at Jaws. The line to the movie was wrapped around the block. It is called a blockbuster because of the movie Jaws. It made $260 million domestic, $216.5 million international in 1975, $476.5 million on a $9 million budget. It was
what's the inflation rate on that? Look that up real quick.
It's oh man, the inflation from 476.5. That's insane. It's going to be something. That's a big fat number. Let's see here. 1975. Value of $1975. So I said 476.5. It's going to be something stupid. It is going to be $2.6 billion. Adjusted for inflation, I think it's the third biggest movie of all time.
Wow.
So
yeah,
it was a phenomenon in every sense of the word. So nominated for 4 Oscars. I'll get into a little bit later about the Oscar history with this, but nominated for 4 Oscars: Best Picture. The only Oscar it lost to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So it's not like if you're gonna lose to something.
Yeah, and I saw that and I was like, I've already decided we have to do that. That's a great movie. I really love it. So. Yeah, that's one you can go like, all right.
Well, yeah, and
you can take the L on that.
And I'll get into the 1975 Oscars in general later too. But the other 3 Oscars it did win: Best Sound, Best Film Editing, and Best Music Dramatic Score. Very, very well deserved nominees and wins. Rotten Tomatoes 97% from critics. 90% from audience. I assume the 10% of the audience who didn't like it are just terrified of sharks and water. It's just too much. So the film Jaws from 1975, I will give a quick plot summary of the film. It is set in a New England beach town called Amity Island. At the beginning of the film, a young woman goes skinny dipping and is very memorably killed by a shark, tossed around a buoy. And The next day, her remains are found, and the medical examiner says it's a shark attack. And the police chief, Mr. Chief Brody, played by Roy Scheider, says, okay, he says it's a shark attack. And the mayor, played by Murray Hamilton, Mayor Larry Vaughn, says he wants to close the beach for the sake of the shark attack. And the mayor is like, yeah, let's not do that. This is
public safety over profit.
Yeah,
and profit over public safety.
Yes, and Amity Island is very much a summer destination. So he's like, no, we got to keep the beach open. So they say it's a boating accident, and then everybody just kind of goes, okay, that's the case. And then a couple days later, a young boy named Alex Kentler is killed in front of a crowded beach, including Brody. So because of this, there's kind of a bounty placed on the shark, and all these amateur shark people go nuts about it. The Quint, played by Robert Shaw, says, hey, I'll take 10 grand and I'll go catch the shark. But everybody else kind of starts going after it anyway. And the local fishermen catch a tiger shark, but oceanographer Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss, a very small man. He's only 5'4". I realized this the other day, but so Hooper comes in and he's like, well, a tiger shark probably wouldn't do this. It's too small, and checks the remains. It's not in. It checks the insides. It's not there. It's like, well, there's probably a different shark out there. Regardless, they find a sunken boat and they find a dead person in there. They're like, the mayor's like, nope, we're going on. It's 4th of July. So 4th of July happens, and lo and behold, a guy gets killed right in front of Brody's son. His son goes into shock, and the mayor, guilt-ridden, is like, okay, we'll pay Quint. And Quint's like, I'll take the 10 grand and I will go get this shark. And for good measure, I'll take Hooper and Brody with me. So off they go, and they go head off to try to chase the shark. And every chance they get, this shark is unlike any other they've ever seen. It is pulling down barrels it shouldn't be pulling. It's bigger than everything they've seen. It's incredibly intelligent. They exchange stories about their scars, and then Quint talks about the USS Indianapolis. The shark returns, essentially rams the boat and kills the engine. They try to drive it to lighter waters, and everything that works, everything they try just essentially isn't working. So Hooper is going to go into a shark cage and kill it with an injection, but it destroys the cage. Hooper is able to escape and go to the seabed. Meanwhile, the shark jumps onto the boat and actually sinks it, killing Quint. Brody is able to shove a oxygen tank into the mouth of the shark and shoot it, and he explodes in vicious fashion, and then Brody,
I would eat some of it.
Just say, just for the sake of, he's like, hey, I killed the shark.
Well, I killed you. I got to eat it.
Brody is up there, and then Hooper resurfaces, and they two paddle to the nearby ocean to the remaining barrels, and the end. No sequels exist. That's it. Nothing else, guys. Just the one movie. This is the one thing about the entire legacy of the film. I'm just like, Jaws 2's okay. Jaws 2's fine. Jaws 3 is not good, and Jaws 4 may be one of the worst movies ever made. So yeah. So but in a shell, Jaws is an incredible movie.
It is.
So us being the kids that we are, obviously we're too young to be around whenever Jaws came out. But our age in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, it was on TV all the time. And we had parents who loved Jaws when they were teenagers.
Right.
So it was on
teenagers, early adults.
Yes. So it was on a lot. It was, the nostalgia was for them. And so we had it a lot. Now, we're pretty landlocked growing up, but I mean, did you ever this was automatically, anytime you were in any sort of water, you're like, oh, I'm going to get eaten by a shark, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I mean, you say we were landlocked, and we were. I mean, we grew up in West Texas primarily.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were at the lake all the time.
A lot, yeah. And we're still scared of sharks.
Yeah. And on boats all the time and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, being on the boat, Dad, I gotta pee. Just jump in the water and go pee. Like,
well,
that's where Jaws is.
It's such a goofy correlation. And by the way,
you feel a crappie that big nibble your ass.
Exactly. It's like, in reality, we have swam in the ocean. We have been around actual marine life, sharks. And it, for some reason, it just never really computed to be like, I guess we were old enough where it was like, okay. That being said, how irresponsible was it of our parents to show us this movie as young as we were?
Well,
it's not exactly, I don't know. It's not exactly a kid-friendly movie. It is by no means
no.
It's so this
and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard like actual after this movie came out, of course it was a big hit, but I heard like beach attendance just plummeted,
yes.
And even pool attendance, public pool attendance has dropped.
It's so, one of those. I mean, that's the brilliance of Spielberg. He drives them out of the pools and into the movie theaters. I mean, but I mean, the amount of I think they said you're more likely to be killed by a vending machine than you are by a shark. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those. But it's an irrational fear. It's an unknown.
That's a bad way to go, though.
Man, I mean, it is a real bad way to go. And so I was trying to put myself in the shoes of context of 1975, and I'm like, okay, now Jaws has kind of started kind of like how Jurassic Park kicked off how much knowledge we know about dinosaurs. I would imagine Jaws kicked off a lot of stuff about sharks.
Yes.
Before 1975, can you? I bet you go into that movie, you go, I don't know anything about sharks.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like they could tell me anything.
Yeah, and I've got more questions on that.
Yeah.
Later, but yeah, I mean, at the time it was. I mean, I think whenever we went through like our Halloween stuff, month of October, the fear of the unknown.
Yes,
I think that is what is so scary about sharks. Is like, is there something under me, or no, or like the something lurking beneath that.
And you have talked about this a lot about like the man versus man versus nature. This is the man versus nature equivalent, because it's like this thing can kill you and it has no qualms about it. It doesn't feel bad and you can't reason with it. There's no, oh, eat this guy instead. Nope. It's just, no, I'm going to eat you. And it's a factual statement. It's the equivalent of us killing a chicken. We don't care about we don't care about the feelings of the chicken.
Right. Like the shark is like, I'm just doing my job, man.
I'm just trying to eat and survive. That's all I'm doing. I thousands upon thousands of years of evolutionary work.
But I think that's almost like the most terrifying thing, I think, is because, I mean, talk about a vicious dog or that. A lot of animals that could attack you, could do a lot of damage, but it seems like, you could deter a dog, a cat, what have you is okay, I don't want none of this. This shark is just a death machine.
It's so gigantic. It's like, it's going to kill you and there's no coming back from it. Like, it's just, yeah.
It doesn't matter how many gold medals you got in the Olympics in swimming.
Not out swimming it. Yep.
He's got you.
Yep. I agree. So the other thing I thought, so I've seen Jaws dozens of times, and especially I've seen the last hour dozens of times, more than probably the first hour. But regardless, so whenever I was watching it this time, there's a lot of like cliches and things they say and from the script that has really lasted the test of time. Like whenever the amateur guys are trying to catch the shark and they're on the boat and he falls in the water he's like, don't look back, swim, don't look back, just trust me. And so it's like, I've heard that 30 times in different movies. Obviously the need the bigger boat is the big thing. There was no boating.
That's what I was fixing to say.
And, you know, the like all those type of how about the central cliche of the one man who knows who is correct, and the officials who are like, nope, I'm not going to accept this because of economic reasons or political reasons or something like that. That
is art imitating reality.
So
is a daily occurrence. Go to your city council and tell me if you can't find an issue. This goes about the same way. So
Jaws has kind of popped up especially in the last 2 years, for a lot of reasons, but one of them being primarily that a lot of it's like, we got to close the beaches for the sake of, you know, public safety. And the mayor going, we can't do that at the economy. We have to keep the economy. And for obvious reasons, the last 2.5 years have kind of mirrored that exact thing, not even being political about it. It's just kind of like, well, do you care about public safety or do you want the money? And a lot of times it's just, I want the money. And it's so, okay. I wanted to ask you this.
We're fucked either way.
Exactly. I want to ask you this question. So Alex Kintler, the little boy, dies, and the mom puts out a bounty for the shark. And later, whenever they think they caught the shark, Miss Kintler comes up and smacks the Brody right in the face. So he's like, you knew about this and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there going like, he smacked the mayor. Like, it's the mayor was the one who did it, but at the same time, like, he does take the responsibility for it. But like, is that where you should place your, like, my son was killed by a shark and I blame you? Like, I guess it's just irrational thing of losing.
I would blame the shark.
You're too practical of a guy. That being said, one of the and as fathers, I really like this. So after she smacks him, obviously she's upset because he lost her son. He goes home and his son is like, he's kind of distressing, and his son's playing the repeat game. So he does this and the son does this and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, gives a kiss. He's like, why? It's like, because I need it. Like, it's just, I need a little bit of love from you, kid. Can you give me something? It was actually, it was sweet. It was a real,
is a sweet moment.
Sweet little moment. Okay. So Schieder, I really like Schieder in this movie. He's kind of one of those guys who, he's kind of the perfect role for this movie because he's not bringing too much to it without like, he doesn't have the baggage. So the three actors in this movie, they're at three very different parts of their careers. So Richard Dreyfuss is brand new. He comes off American Graffiti to this, and then he goes to the Stratosphere after this. Schieder has been in good stuff. He was in The French Connection, gets an Oscar nomination, is in other stuff. He's right in the thick of his career. Shaw is at the end. So they're at very different parts of their lives, and these very different characters doing these different things. Schieder as Brody in general, like, it's kind of a cool character being like, I'm an outsider, and that kind of, distinguishes me. But it's not like somebody from New England going to the South. This is a guy from New York in New England. It's not like it's night and day. It's just the little cultural differences.
Yeah. And like, it seems to me like he's like, oh, okay, I can be chief of police in a sleepy little beach town. And easy money, bud. And then everything, disaster strikes. But to his credit, he's like, okay, I'm going to go freaking handle this.
Still deal with it. And even, and you know that you can notice as before he deals with all the shark stuff, all the things he deals with are really bullshit things. It's like, hey, welcome to law enforcement. This guy's parked in front of my thing. Their azaleas are too big. These kids are over. Like, it's just, it's absolutely, it's what he wanted. He wanted the quiet time. He wanted I don't want to actually, like, going from a New York cop to a sleepy New England town cop, night and day. Yeah. I'm like, that's what he wanted. But like you said, he's able to jump in there. So yeah, I think Schieder's great.
Yeah. I spent the better part of my life trying to be an elite a law enforcement officer, and I've been to the acorns are falling on my side of the fence calls and
yeah.
that kind of stuff. So that's part of it. I'd rather deal with the shark.
Sure. I get it. Cause you're like, I trained for that stuff. Like I trained.
Yeah. It's like, okay, this is life and death. I'm in.
This is what I signed up for.
This is actually my job.
I didn't sign up for the guy parking on the wrong side of the street. Like,
right. Yeah.
He does very well convey all that and the very no nonsense of it all. Dreyfuss in this movie, I really like, he's hidden under a huge beard, and the Richard Dreyfuss you kind of know is not really the Richard Dreyfuss in this movie. But he's essentially, it's like, hey, it's like, okay, we got the no nonsense cop, we got the entrenched, people down there doing all their little things, and he comes in going like, your guys are idiots, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, and I noticed that a couple times. I think he's talking about the shark's mouth, and he's like, "This is a tiger shark." It's like, well, what about these teeth? And it's like, I could take a chunk out of you. It's like,
and he's like a marine biologist,
yeah, exactly,
right? Like, or oceanographer, or something like that.
Yeah. But I mean,
yeah,
very, yeah.
But I mean, he's still kind of green. Maybe not that much hands-on, but he's definitely the best educated going into it.
Yeah, it's fun to have him in there.
Whereas Shaw's character definitely has the most experience. And then
Brody,
Chief.
Yeah, Chief. Chief.
He probably goes in the most cold,
Yeah.
I mean, just unaware,
Yeah, I was really interested in that entire first sequence when they first hook Jaws. That when they first hook him, the entire thing of, Quint's in his thing with his with his hook, and here's the click, 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 and then him very calmly putting his thing on, clipping in, putting it's his foot, and what a great setup that guy had. He was ready.
Yeah. Well, I think that just shows his level of experience he's like
everything taken into consideration. Yep.
I know I'm fixing to go on a freaking ride.
Yep.
Because I've been on it before, and I know I need all this. And all right, let's rock and roll, bud.
I want to get into Shaw a little later. I'll get into Shaw after this, but okay. So I want to put Steven Spielberg in a little bit of perspective here. So Spielberg, at this point, is a young kid. I think he's not even 30. And
really,
so I'll double check that real quick. But so Spielberg goes in this movie. He had made essentially 2 movies before this. The first one being a television film called Duel, which is about a trucker who is essentially terrorizing another guy. It's a TV movie, very well received. Well regarded. And then he made a movie with Goldie Hawn called The Sugarland Express. It was not very well received. It did not make a whole lot of money. And so in 1975, let's see, Spielberg was 29. So yeah, Spielberg was 29, and he comes in. Yeah, exactly. I thought the same thing. I'm like, wow, what was I doing? Yeah. So Spielberg's 29, and he's fresh faced, and he's ready to go. And he's agreeable to the studio, and the studio's kind of like, okay, and he's trying to make everything work the best he can. And so he comes into this, and he makes this movie, and he takes chances. He does things on movies, very, very movie geek stuff.
Especially back then. I mean, he was rolling the freaking dice.
So the sequence specifically was whenever Alex is killed on the beach. So that entire sequence, the really cool thing I love is the cross cutting. So you're looking at Schieder, and somebody walks by, and as soon as he walks by, it goes to the beach. Somebody walks by, and it goes back to Schieder, and it's just like it gives you this odd sense of paranoia, and there's no music. And then whenever Brody realizes that Kittner's being killed, Jake, I'm gonna teach you. This is called a dolly zoom. A dolly. Yeah, I
don't know what that is.
So a dolly zoom, it's when it focuses on his face and the background goes away.
Mhm.
So what that is?
Okay, gotcha.
So the camera is getting closer, but
Yeah.
the camera is zooming out. So in reality,
Yeah.
his face looks the same, but everything else goes in the foreground. So it's called a dolly zoom. So I get geeked out on like dolly zoom shots, and he had a split diopter shot about he was looking at the beach. A split diopter is a camera where in the foreground you see one thing, and in the background you see something, and they're both in focus, and there's a visible middle line.
Right.
And he does all this goofy stuff, which shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems pretty revolutionary, actually, whenever you think about it. I mean, yeah, I mean, you watch movies now in 2023 and they're doing the same stuff. And
Yep.
He, was pioneering it in 75.
75,
you know.
And so the true brilliance of this movie is all by accident. So the shark. How much do you see the shark? If you count the amount of full time you see the actual shark, it can't not be more than 5 minutes.
Yeah. And I guess the most you see of it is a fin.
Or right
a shadow.
Yeah. So in reality, when they were making this movie, there's a lot of production information about this movie you can read about behind the scenes. I highly suggest you go check it out. So the shark, they named it Bruce after Spielberg's lawyer. It was a big mechanical shark. They had it ready to go, and then anytime they use it, it broke. It was constantly broke. So they had to keep shooting around it. And the less they shot it, the scarier it made it, because you didn't know what it was. We talked about this with the Blair Witch. Your imagination.
Yeah, the unknown is worse than reality.
Yes, and if even looking at it now, like at the end scene, whenever the shark jumps on the boat, it's kind of silly if you're not so entrenched into it. But you're so you're so committed at that point. You're like, no, I'm in.
Yeah. It's like, and you know what? Something I just realized. So they nicknamed him Bruce.
Yes.
What was the shark's name in Finding Nemo?
That's not a coincidence.
Bruce.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's like, fish are friends, not food. That's exactly it. And it's a famous enough story that it's like, well, Spielberg, and it was a Disney thing. So I mean, that makes sense. And Spielberg doing that kind of stuff, and and using the shark enough where you're like, oh, I'm not going to focus on it, even with I have the shark, like the famous chumming scene where Schieder's doing that and the shark pops up and just cuts away, and you're like, oh, okay. And so as a guy, little behind the curtain here, a guy who was trying to cut back on cigarettes, this movie probably didn't help much.
No.
Everybody's smoking like a train in this movie.
Yeah.
And talking with a cigarette hanging out of the side of their mouths too.
Yeah, just real casual, like. And it's kind of that anemoia nostalgia of like, you used to be able to do whatever the hell you wanted, anywhere you wanted,
Yeah. It's like, hey, Mayor, can you not light up this cigarette in this hospital? Oh, nobody cares. Cool. Okay. Like,
it's kind of like watching Mad Men. You're like, I wish I could drink at work and just have a cocktail at a meeting and smoke a cigarette.
This pregnant lady has a glass of wine. That's not weird. Okay, whatever. Like, yeah. Okay. So we've been beating around. We've been saving it. This entire podcast has been kind of around the entire idea of Robert Shaw, Quint, and the USS Indianapolis speech. So outside, even if you take out the USS Indianapolis speech, Shaw is incredible in this movie. He is
absolutely
so good. He's so good. He is such a mix of drunken idiot, experience who knows what he's doing, and in over his head.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think it was an act.
No. Yeah. Shaw. So all three of the guys in this film, very famous issues with substances throughout their careers. So, and from what I understand, the USS Indianapolis scene, Shaw was fairly drunk as well.
Yeah, my understanding was he was completely trashed, and that was all just improv, and they just kind of worked through it a little bit.
Same
They
thing
said
with,
he was
yeah.
hammered.
And I believe his annoyance with Richard Dreyfuss was also authentic.
Yeah,
It feels like it was.
Well, I especially like this one part of that scene is where
whenever he has his leg up.
They're comparing scars and everything like that. And he's like, well, they ask about a scar on his arm. He goes, wow, that was a tattoo I had removed. And he goes, oh, let me guess. It said mother, and goes a cackling, and he don't even give a giggle.
Straight faced, yes.
He reaches over and pats him on the shoulder. He's like, it was the USS in Indianapolis,
and he's
and everyone goes, I mean, that's a buzzkill.
Okay,
like everyone's like, well, I'm not as drunk as I thought I just was. What? And then he goes into it, and they're just mesmerized. And as am I as a viewer. I'm like,
man, I am just like, oh, it is that entire scene. As soon as he says, Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes in our side, Chief. As soon as he says that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've talked about this in the past. Occasionally movies will understand, like, okay, this is the scene. We're going to give it the patience. We're going to give it the gravity. We're going to give it the attention it needs. Spielberg knows this. Everybody knows this. And everybody takes a step back and says, let's focus on this.
That's the best thing they could have ever done, is shut the fuck up and let it go.
Shut up and let them roll. And and the camera, by the way, it occasionally is like, if it gives it a break, it'll check Schieder, and then it'll come back and he'll and I mean, he does not miss a beat in that entire speech. It works, and every little thing. Obviously, my little favorite line he says is like, you ever see a shark's eyes? The dead eyes,
the doll's
like
eyes.
a doll's eyes. It's like just and
they roll back.
Yeah, and then then finishing smiling. Anyway, we delivered the bomb, and it was like, man, it's
so perfect, just because
perfect.
I can think of extraordinarily difficult things that I've gone through, that at the end I went, we got the job done.
Yep.
We did what we were supposed to do. We got it done. And I mean, that's such a, I mean, in hindsight, we can look back at his character, and I mean, he's got PTSD. He's an alcoholic. He's you know, I mean, you watch all of your buddies get eaten around you, and you almost get eaten. I mean, what do you expect? But back then, it wasn't diagnosed or anything. But I think that's something that was indicative of that generation. And he's like, you know, he describes this horrific thing that most of us can't imagine. And he's like, but we delivered the bomb. And I think that's indicative of that generation. It's like, yeah, it sucked, but we did our job.
And you can kind of look at that in terms of the 3 characters as well. It's kind of like, okay, we got the Vietnam generation with Dreyfuss. We have the Korea with Schieder, and then we have the World War II with Shaw. Like Shaw looks at Schieder and goes, he's like, okay, Brody, I kind of get what you're just like, no, hippie. I don't trust you, hippie. And just kind of like, just that level of, that's a good point. And a little bit after that scene, whenever he realizes the engine is having problems, he goes over, kind of longingly kind of touches the life jackets, grabs 2 and gives them to the other guys. He said he'll never put a life jacket on again.
That's exactly what I was fixing to say, is whenever he first starts recounting the Indianapolis story, he goes, "I'll never put a life jacket on again."
Yeah. And it's,
You know, and if that's not PTSD, I don't know what is. I mean, you know, I mean, to be traumatized by that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So Shaw did not get an Oscar nomination. I have no idea how. I do, like, he's so incredible in this movie. And I look at the lineup and I'm like, oh, well, there's got to be, it must have been a powerhouse line. It was not. There were some good performances. Chris Sarandon from Dog Day Afternoon, and Brad Dourif from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and George Burns was really fun in the Shortstime Boys. But like, he is on such another level in that scene. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie, he's just as good. And it's just to that level. It's, man, he is so good.
I'm going to make a very bold statement.
Yep.
I think that scene from when they're singing, drunkenly singing the song, "I'm tired and I want to go home."
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and they're drunk and feeling good, and then they go into that
sequence.
And
yep.
That entire sequence, in my humble common man opinion, I think is one of the best cinematic things that has ever happened.
I have a trouble disagreeing with you. Like, it's so, like, that entire sequence is like, okay, well, these guys are bonding now, and now they're bonding, and then they're getting intimate. It's intimate male conversations. You're just like, oh, it's especially with us, like a guy like me and you, obviously, like, it's like, okay, well, you know, it's kind of, this entire movie has been kind of based on a machismo aspect, and this is like, okay, we're kind of getting vulnerable here.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think you start seeing the camaraderie come together, because I really think that shared adversity is what binds people. Really is. When you're fighting the same fight and y'all are going through the same crap and unpleasantries and everything, I mean, that's really what forms the tightest bonds. Like, good times don't create that. You know what I mean?
It's the hard stuff.
Yeah, it's easy to be friends with someone when everything's good. But whenever you need someone in the middle of the night, you know who your friends are, you know, who shows up. And I think you really only develop those bonds through a shared adversity. And
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. It's amazing. I
couldn't say enough about that scene. I mean, that scene's incredible, just from top to bottom. Everybody is on. I mean, even the choices of, like, no background music, nothing. You're just going to let him talk. It's so perfect.
That was the best decision anyone made, was to leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Exactly. Yes.
Let it ride.
Yep. Okay. So before we take a quick break, I want to talk about the 1975 Oscars real quick. So, Best Picture from 1975, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest wins. Jaws is nominated alongside Dog Day Afternoon. You ever seen Dog Day Afternoon? It's the original side with a hostage taker bank robbery movie with Al Pacino. Exceptional movie. Nashville, a sprawling epic of 1,000 people doing a lot of different things in Nashville, followed by Robert Altman. And then Barry Lyndon, a old-timey movie directed by Stanley Kubrick, and one of the top Best Picture lineups in history. Now, the interesting thing about this, so if you see where my finger is, there'll be a little thing that clicks up there. If you click that, it's going to be a YouTube video. And what that YouTube video is going to be, it's actually on the other side, but so over here. So Steven Spielberg in 1975, Jaws had made all the money in the world.
Over here?
That's right over this direction. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Steven Spielberg had made all the money in the world. He gets all the critical acclaim. And so he decided it was a great idea to get a camera crew and videotape him watching the Oscar nominations live as they're announced on TV. He's like, here we go. Jaws is going to get nominated for 12 Oscars. Here we go. and they have him live watching Best Director being nominated as he doesn't get a nomination. And he's just, he's I mean, his buddies are like, it's so stupid. And it's like, I guess the shark directed the movie and all this. Now Spielberg is, this year, he's probably going to get another Oscar nomination, which will make him the most nominated Oscar director ever. So the Academy does care about him, but at the same time, it is funny just for the sake of like, oh, I'm on top of the world. And it's like, no, we got to knock you down a little bit.
Yeah. And didn't you say like his latest movie, which is like autobiography, basically, like he kind of bloviates and
so this
kisses
is
his own ass.
It's my own opinion, very much, but I like a lot of people love the movie, but I think he's like, hey, I'm the most famous director of the last 45 years. You already know everything about me. Let me tell you the true story that you already knew. And it's like, okay, well, he gets a little lost in his own mythology, but another time he's going to get an Oscar nomination in a couple days. Good for him. And I love 95% of what Spielberg does.
Absolutely.
So
the vast majority of what he's done is absolute brilliant bangers.
Yes.
Banger.
After one after another. And I'm sure this is only our second Spielberg movie after Empire of the Sun. I can't believe Empire of the Sun was our first one, but regardless. So here we are, our second Spielberg. I'm sure we're going to do more.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be back. We are back. Every week I go through the filmography of a filmmaker and put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. It is time for Poll for a Dumbass. We're actually not doing a filmmaker necessarily. We are doing the most Academy Award nominated man in the history of the Academy Awards. It is Mr. John Williams, the man behind the music for Jaws, the famous Dudunk Dudunk. He has been nominated for 52 Oscars in his career. Still chugging, might get another one on Tuesday. And I'm going to see. Yeah. So I have taken a number of his nominations, not all 52. I'm going to quiz you on 16 of them. So he started his career in 1968. I'm not going to start you with those. I'm going to go through every single one of his Oscar nominations, but I'll hit a couple along the way. His first Oscar nomination back in 1968 for Valley of the Dolls. Got two in 1970 for different scores. One for Goodbye, Mr. Chips, one for The Reviewers. I've not seen either of these movies, by the way. He won his first Oscar in 1972 for the movie version of Fiddler on the Roof. Jake, have you seen Fiddler on the Roof? So this was a discussion on Twitter the other day because people were talking about like, when's the first time you've seen Fiddler on the Roof? I'm like, we are kids living in Texas. Jewish people are not a thing. Like Fiddler on the Roof is not something we're aware of. I have no problem watching it. It's just Jewish people aren't a thing.
Well, it's kind of like, I mean, you hear a lot about anti-Semitism nowadays. And I mean, it's, but I'm like, I think I've met like 2 Jewish people.
I feel the exact same way.
I'm like, I don't even know if I like them or I don't like them. It's like, am I supposed to be racist?
How can I be prejudiced against somebody I don't have any opinion about? Like, exactly. Yes.
It's like those couple of people I met seemed all right.
Exactly. I feel the same way. Yeah. So he gets.
There's a great on that note. Real quickly, there's a great line from Justified where, oh God,
Raylan,
what's his name?
Or Boyd.
Yeah, Boyd is like talking about this anti-Semitic, conspiracy theory and all this stuff. And of course, they're in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And he goes, Boyd, have you ever met a Jew? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's a
great question. It's like, you're really.
How do you know you hate them?
You're really out of your league here. Yeah, it's like, who I hate? People from the West Indies. It's like, really? How many people from the West Indies you ever met? It's like, I don't know. Like, it's why? Yeah. So So anyway,
Nope. Those damn New Zealanders.
exactly. Yes. So he gets
I don't know.
he gets his first Oscar in 1972 for the best scoring adaptation or original song score for Fiddler on the Roof. Gets an Oscar nominations too, actually, for 2 dramatic scores in 1973. One for the movie Images, which I've never heard of before, and the other one, which you have heard of. How about the Poseidon Adventure?
Yes.
The classic, young Gene Hackman.
Love it.
Yes. Upside down boats, all the fun stuff.
We watched that with our dad on the night that Princess Diana got killed.
Really? I'm glad you remember this. The very, like, I was probably a little too young to remember that exact moment. That's interesting to note. Oh, fun.
Yep.
So he had another big year in 1974, 3 Oscar nominations, 1 for dramatic score, 1 for best song, and 1 for best song score. Cinderella, Liberty 2, and Tom Sawyer. 2 more movies still haven't seen. So on the same lines of the Poseidon Adventure, got an Oscar nomination in 1975 for The Towering Inferno.
Yeah, that's another great one.
I have never seen The Towering Inferno.
Yep.
Paul Newman.
I like it. I mean, it's,
it is what it is.
It's dated.
Sure.
And, the acting is what it is at the time, but
yeah,
it is, I guess it's one of the disaster films where you're like, what would I do?
Yes. Yes.
Almost like a zombie movie or something like along those lines. Yeah.
Okay. So as far, so he's already won an Oscar, and he is up to, let's see, 6, 9. So The Towering Inferno was his 10th Oscar nomination. He already has a win. So it wins in 1976 for Jaws. Very agreeable that Jaws is the great. Listen to this run. I know you've seen all these movies, but these are the runs, and I'm gonna, you're included in all of these. He wins for Star Wars. He nominated for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Nominated for Superman. Nominated for Empire Strikes Back. Nominated for Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then wins for E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Yep.
That is a run, baby. I mean, you just think
how much money this dude's got in the bank. Golly.
He is doing just fine. Like, you think it's like, oh, who's the guy? Not only did he do the Dada in Jaws, he creates the Star Wars theme. He creates the Superman theme. He creates the Indiana Jones theme. I mean, I'm trying to think of the tune on, when he's like scooping the mashed potatoes up in the shape of that. Yep. That's from Close Encounters. Yeah.
But I can't.
Came up with that.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, he does that.
Yeah.
The incredible Superman music, obviously, and E.T. E.T. is his pinnacle. The music in E.T. is incredible. So, okay. So let me see here. So Star Wars, yes. Close Encounters, yes. Superman, yes. Empire Strikes Back, yes. Raiders of the Lost Ark, yes. E.T., yes. So, I mean, it's I mean, that is quite the run in general. And he doesn't stop. Like I said, he's the most nominated man in the history of the Oscars. So he, in also 1983, the year he wins for E.T., he wrote a song for a movie called Yes, Giorgio, called If We Were in Love. Didn't win, but regardless. Okay. So he keeps on a run as well. After 1984, does Return of the Jedi. I don't have it on the list just because it's like, well, if you've seen Empire Strikes Back, you've obviously seen.
Of course. Yeah.
So nominated for Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom, The River, it's a Mel Gibson, Sissy Spacek movie. Empire of the Sun, did all the music for Empire of the Sun.
Wow.
Witches of Eastwick, a movie called The Accidental Tourist. Now, this one I'm curious about. Have you seen Born on the 4th of July?
Yes.
Yes. A tough
Vietnam.
Tough watch. Tough watch. But a good movie regardless. So he's just ripping them off. Witches of Eastwick, Accidental Tourist, Born on the 4th of July, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. How about the music from the classic Christmas film Home Alone? That's him again. That's him again.
Dadgum.
Yeah, like you said, how much money does this guy have in the bank?
He figured something out.
He figured something out, and he is not done. Nominated for Best Original Song for a song from Home Alone called Somewhere in My Memory. No idea what it is. Nominated for Best Original Score for JFK. Nominated for Best Original Song for a song called When You're Alone from the movie Hook. I don't remember this. Is it the song the little girl sings?
Yeah. What's it called?
When You're Alone. I don't remember it.
Maybe.
I've seen Hook 1,000 times. I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
Song. Yeah. But so gets another Oscar, gets his latest Oscar win in 1993 for a little movie you might have heard of called Schindler's List.
Yep.
And the music is so subtle in that movie. It just makes everything so terrible that much worse.
Yeah, but the more of these movies that you mention, the more I think, like, what if you just took the music out?
Yeah. Spielberg
is that movie going anywhere?
Spielberg himself said, if you take the music out of Jaws, it's nobody cares. It's like
how would it feel to be the guy that invented da?
Yeah, I mean that's what your fifth most popular thing you've ever done.
Wow.
Like, yeah, exactly. So he goes off of Schindler's List, gets an Oscar nomination, makes an original song for the movie Sabrina in 1996. Oscar nomination for that, gets a nomination for the score for that as well. Scores the movie Nixon in 1996. Does the movie in 1997, Oscar nomination for Sleepers, 98 for Amistad, and 99, don't know if
Amistad's a good one.
Amistad's a good one, and gets another Oscar nomination in 1999 for Saving Private Ryan.
Never heard of it. So wow.
Saving Private. Wow. There are two movies in this span of 1999, and the next one he does. So he gets an Oscar nomination for the movie Angela's Ashes, and he gets another one in 2001. So Saving Private Ryan and this movie in 2001 was a big debate between our parents and our grandparents about, well, the kids aren't old enough to see R-rated movies. Should they still watch these movies? It was Saving Private Ryan and The Patriot.
Yeah.
Yep. And they were like, they should watch these movies because they're good. And they're meaningful.
I think Braveheart.
Braveheart was another one who was like, well, it's the violence.
We got to watch.
Yep.
Yeah.
We watched way too young. Like, yeah, but still. So obviously you have seen The Patriot.
We turned out.
We're not too violent. I get it. So Oscar nomination in 2001 for The Patriot, goes two in 2002 with AI, artificial intelligence, and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. My personal favorite score of his is the twinkling fun of Catch Me If You Can.
Oh yeah.
That's a great one. And
because I do like that because it's very like you're playing a game, and of course he's playing a game the whole time. It's fun and hokey jokey, and this guy's making a career off of playing a game. Perfect.
It's a great score. Does another Harry Potter in 2005, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Has two in 2006, Memoirs of a Geisha and Munich. 2012, The Adventures of Tintin and Warhorse, a pair of Steven Spielberg movies. And then the last Steven Spielberg movie he has been nominated for, 2013. How about Lincoln? Yes. So
Daniel Day-Lewis, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
So, I mean, not only has he done all the music for all these movies, got nominated for it, he has four others. He does a movie called The Book Thief, which I'd never heard of, and I don't know a whole lot of people have seen it in 2014. Is that something you actually have seen? Seems familiar, like you might have seen it. It's a war drama film about book burning.
I want to say I've seen that.
I want to say you might have.
I think it's like a little kid it's like under Nazi occupation or something like that, and they're burning books, and
Jeffrey Rush.
Yeah,
I think you have seen that. I think you have seen that.
I bet I've seen it.
Jake, this is one.
I'm willing to bet I've seen it.
Mark it down, everybody. Jake's seen The Book Thief, and I haven't. I mean, I remember specifically you being like, I watched this movie, The Book Thief, wasn't bad. And I was like, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember me saying it better than I do then. No, I'm almost positive I've seen it.
That's pretty good. And then he follows up with the last three Star Wars movies, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of the Skywalker. So, I mean, the guy is unrelenting. And now I have to know what his now since you said something, I have to look up his net worth. He's been working for the better part of 60 years. He apparently has a 9-figure net worth. It's unsurprising. I mean, when you make the Star Wars theme in and of itself, you're probably set for life.
Golly, that's another one. Think of dun 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 dun. Everyone knows that.
Not only did he do that's the Empirical March. He also did the bum bum ba da da bum bum. He did both. That's remarkable. And I mean, you could do those two and be like, I'm the guy that invented dun. Yes.
Call it good.
Oh, don't worry. I'm also going to throw Indiana Jones on there, and I'm going to do Schindler's List, and I'm going to do Catch Me If You Can, and just the guy's incredible. He's probably near the age of retiring. A lot of people are expecting him to retire soon. Might get another Oscar nomination on Tuesday, but Jake, that is the best you have ever done. I picked out 16 of his 52 Oscar nominations. You have seen 16. You've seen 15. You have not seen Fiddler on the Roof. And I'm not, and I think that's okay. But I mean, every other one, obviously. I mean, he's such a. I mean, the guy works.
It's more of a credit to him than it is to me.
Yeah.
It's just that you can be, even not being a movie buff, that. Yeah, I mean, a dumbass can know that many things. Like, it's hard to believe he's had that much. I mean, Lord.
By the way, those were just his Oscar nominations. Like, I didn't mention the stuff outside of that he did. I mean, I'm sure he has done, like, I don't have the list of the other stuff he's done because he's done so much stuff. I'm sure there's something I'm missing that he somehow didn't get. I'd have to think about it, but I mean, I can't. He did the uncredited music. So he's uncredited for, well, he says he is credited for Superman, but I wanted to check. He might, I forgot. He also did the music for Jurassic Park and didn't get an Oscar nomination. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, unstoppable. John Williams, best that ever did it, probably ever will do it. So
the only other person I can think that, and I don't know a ton about musical scores and stuff like that, but
yeah,
the only other one I can think of is he did, I know he did Black Hawk Down.
I believe Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Yes. That's the only other one that I can even think.
And I get it. That makes I agree with you completely. Like it's that kind of guy, and you're like, those are kind of the two you always think of. Yeah. You assume
he did Hunt for Red October, didn't he?
Yeah. He did a lot of. He's as prevalent as anybody else. So yeah. Well, I'm not surprised you are that great at John Williams. So you have seen 15 of the 16. Very well done, sir. Very well.
Yes.
So, Jake, I think it's about that time.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right, let's do it.
It's about time to jump in the hot box.
Each episode, instead of me steering the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions that I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's trivia, sometimes it is not. What do you have for me today, buddy?
All right. First off, and I believe I have asked you this on another episode, but I couldn't remember which one.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure we've discussed this. Have you ever seen a shark in the wild?
Yes, I have. I have seen a shark in the wild. Obviously, living overseas when we were right on the ocean, and Now, I've never seen a shark of any sort of magnitude.
Right.
They have,
Yeah, they weren't very big.
They weren't very big, but it was cool to see. Like, it was just like, it's a different kind of feeling being in the water and seeing a shark and being like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a shark. It's a shark. And everybody being,
You realize like how incapable you are
absolutely
in that environment.
Yeah.
It's the most vulnerable thing. I mean, even a little fish, you're like, I can't compete.
Yep,
I'm in your world.
Yep. Hey, this quarter-sized jellyfish can mess me up way more than I ever could, and is like, no, it's so foreign. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So obviously nothing threatening, but it's been cool every time I've done it. Probably only been 2 or 3 times, but still.
Yeah. So this movie always reminds me of a friend that I had in 4th grade, Lamar Elementary, Midland, Texas.
Okay.
Looking back on it, he was probably on the spectrum or Asperger's or something.
Sure.
Probably, because sharks
that was his
thing. Every day he had graphic tees with different types of sharks.
God bless him.
I remember he had several shirts that like had a display on the back of the different type of sharks and their dimensions.
Awesome.
It looked like kind of like a shirt you buy from the merch guy, like at a concert, you know, where it gets to tour dates.
I like it.
Yeah. And I mean,
he made it his personality. That was his thing.
That was absolutely his thing.
Awesome.
And so like, I remember like we'd be at recess or something. And I'm like, hey, dang, Natalie's looking pretty good today, huh? She's cute. I like her. And he's like, I like sharks.
This is a guy
like,
this
all right,
is so one-tracked. I love it. He's like,
I'm like, did you see Nolan Ryan last night? He's like, no, I like sharks though. All right.
Hold on. Let me take a quick commercial break real quick. Sorry about that, everybody. I had to come back because, so I've never been like a big shark guy, but I love like the San Jose Sharks. Have always been my team for hockey. And I forgot I even had merch. So I'm disappointed in myself. Could have been wearing this the whole time.
Yeah.
So this is for Jake's buddy in the 4th grade.
There you go. So that story being told, that's why I asked this question.
Okay.
What is your favorite shark? Your favorite species?
I really like whale sharks. They're so just like the idea of a massive something that could kill you without thinking about it, like without even knowing it's killed you. Like
swipe of the tail, you're done.
It's like it didn't even feel the tickle on its tail, and it
I was like,
destroys you. Yeah, exactly. And it's just it's a cool thing to like. I'm always fascinated at something like that where it's like, oh, I'm the biggest thing in the ocean that is an actual fish. Like it's the biggest.
But it doesn't act like it though.
Nope, it doesn't. It's just it's a
but I guess if you're the biggest, then you don't have to.
You're not fighting on anything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So whale sharks are cool. Hammerhead's close second just because it's such an odd.
Man, that's mine.
Yeah,
hammerheads.
It's just such a strange thing. Like it's so odd, and it's such an anomaly. Yeah.
Yeah. My friend's favorite shark in 4th grade was the thrasher. With the long tail, which is actually mentioned.
It's the one that gets him in
the scars.
That's right. Yeah. You're
right. Yeah. So that's what it reminds me of.
I like it.
All right. What are your boating abilities? Stick you on a boat on a lake. We won't even go ocean, but on a lake, outboard motor. You're going to be able to run that bitch.
Outboard motor, I'd figure it out. I'd be able to piece it together enough. Like I can, priming motors, choke, all that kind of stuff. I can figure that part out.
Right.
So I mean, it's by no means second nature, and I no means know how to just hop to it, but I could get to it, and I'm not
You can
going
get there.
Yeah, it's and with a little bit of subtlety too. It's not something I'm just going to be like, oh no, I blew up and yeah, exactly. I know how to ease into it and stuff like that. So just the general ease of technology. But yeah, I mean, it's not something like now what Richard Dreyfuss is doing, what Robert Shaw is doing in this movie. I'm not like
that.
I could
Different kind of boating.
I could figure it out with a little bit of observation, maybe shadowing, but I mean, it's not something that comes simple.
Yeah.
You and our other brother are much more of the more boating enthusiasts because you're both avid fishermen.
Yeah. But yeah, if you put me out on the ocean, it would be a different story.
Much different story. Yes.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but our viewing audience probably doesn't.
Okay.
But how'd you learn to swim?
I never learned how to swim. It's like, essentially, have I ever taken lessons? No. Have I ever talked to somebody, even in my older age, on how to, can I swim laps? Nope. Like it's literally, our dad was an old school guy, and he's like, we're in a lake. You're in 5 feet of water. You're 4 feet tall. Off the boat you go. And we were a hell of a great doggy paddlers, like, because it was just like, well, I have to keep the energy up because my head's above water. And looking at it now, you don't think of it in kid brain at the time. Looking at it now, it's like, well, just calm down. Like
exactly. It was terrifying as a kid, but
if you take a breath, you're not gonna sink. This is freshwater lake.
It was literally sink or swim.
Yes.
It was. Do you want to get back to the boat?
Mm-hmm. Figure it out. And it was a lot of it was panic.
It taught us to be able to keep our head above water and get back to a safe point.
Yep.
So
then eventually I got to a point, and I guess I'd matured brain wise enough. I'd been in somebody's pool, and I'm like, okay, I've seen the Olympics enough. I have the general idea of what I have to do. Figure it out. And that's essentially what I did. Like I have friends who like do like laps for exercise. And I don't know, like the head underwater 3 times. Like I don't get that. I don't have any sort of, we never went to a swim school.
Yeah. No, I've been to swim school, but the only times I've been, I was the instructor. But I remember I was a private swim instructor for this one kid, and I had to teach him how to do the roll and shoot off of the wall.
Yes.
I had to like study it and practice it before I could teach him, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. And I'm trying to spin around and hit my head on the thing. I'm like, I got to get better at this before I teach this kid how to do it. I was like, I don't know.
I have a friend of mine used to be the swim coach at the University of Tulane. So, so she knows what she's doing. And there's a guy who used to do it for high school, and he used to teach a girl I know who is a very good swimmer. So I know it's available to me, but it's one of those things. It's like, I'm not going to sink. Like, I think to myself, especially out in the ocean, I'm not saying I'm going to survive, but I know how to float for a long time. Like, the ocean is a different animal,
especially in high salinity.
Because especially
you can float a lot better.
Especially the ocean we grew up in, the ocean we were around. It was very, very salty.
That Gulf.
Yeah,
one of the saltiest bodies of water.
It was very, very difficult to sink. So I mean, that's the way to learn. Yeah, it
was like swimming on a mattress.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
All right. Do you or have you ever had seasickness?
Oh yes. I have a specific, it's not a normal thing. Like I don't think of myself as being seasick, just like I don't think of myself as having a fear of heights, but occasionally you get in a situation and you're like, well, I apparently am afraid of heights. It was on my
You
honeymoon.
have a fear of death.
It was on my honeymoon. We were in, I believe it was Honduras, and we were on a cruise. We were on an excursion, and our thing, we were doing parasailing, and we're on this boat, and it's super choppy waters, and it's kunk 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 kunk, and we're struggling. My wife throws up before we get on we get in the parachute, and we're just like, finally calm. We're up in the air, and we're like, whatever, this is fine, because we weren't on the choppy boat. I get down, cha-chunk, cha-chunk, then I throw up. So it's not like I don't normally think of myself as being seasick, but there's always a situation where it can hit you out of nowhere.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've never had seasickness, but put me in the passenger seat of a vehicle, and I look down at a phone for a minute or something.
It's so strange that whenever you're driving, you could be doing crazy stuff. Since you're in control, you're under control. But man, when you're the passenger,
I drive all the time. I can take a couple hour run in a passenger seat, and I am green by the time we get there.
And my wife and son both have very bad car sickness. They get it bad, and it gets worse the further back in the car they get. If they're in the way back, that's a problem.
See, that's the only time I've gotten a little bit air sick.
Really?
I was like at the very back, and it was very turbulent, and it was.
I didn't
even upchuck on that one.
Yeah.
I've never used a barf bag.
I haven't either.
That way.
I haven't either.
But I didn't feel good.
Yeah. It's most of my plane experiences.
Yeah, I was glad when we touched down.
Yeah.
All right, Ben. Well, I think you're free to go, bud.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, before we go, what is your film rating of Jaws?
It's kind of funny is I think the whole movie's great.
Yes.
But I think you pull the USS Indianapolis scene out of it, and it reduces the quality of the movie by about 50%.
It adds what was before, and it adds to what's after. Like it's
perfect timing. Like it leads up perfectly.
It's gaining. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
I stand by my comment. I think that's one of the best all-time movie scenes ever.
I'm with you there. Unsurprising 5 out of 5. It's hard to beat unless you're One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I don't know how you get beaten by it. Like it's
right. Yeah.
So I mean, it makes sense. It's a classic for a reason. I'm glad it made all the money, and sometimes the best movies win. That just about does it for this episode of the Film Critic Common Man. Thank you so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at NebIsBen, at Letterboxd Neb810, Instagram Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website, Ice Cream for Freaks. Oscar nominations on Tuesday. You can check out all my predictions. I have them up. They'll be up all week. I'm not writing about anything else until the Oscar nominations, because that's pretty much the only thing I care about right now. You can follow my own other writings at the Film Experience and Cinema Scholars. You can find me on other pods on the Dave Luther's Podcasting. I'm going to be doing a podcast about the movie The Cooler in a couple of weeks, talking about Alec Baldwin, which is weird timing.
I heard some new stuff came out on that too.
It's just we're talking about the movie. It has nothing to do about him, but whatever.
Right.
So Jake, where can the people find you? In your weird shack covered in shark jaws?
I'll be at the bottom of the ocean in the USS Indianapolis. You got about as much luck finding me there as you do anywhere. So
make sure to follow the podcast at Critic Common Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for all your patronage. This is my pick for next week. I talked about the Oscars. The Oscar nominations coming out this week. We're going to talk about 2019 Best Picture winner Parasite, our first ever international film. It's going to be fun. It's on Hulu. Go check it out. So you can enjoy it well ahead of time. And we will catch you guys next time. Thank you so very much for having us.
What's the trick? What's the trick? in making my love stick? What's the trick?